Wow. Are you guys watching the reunion of Ready to Love? It is crazy and it is only part one. So, as I said before, I already spoke about the situation with Andre and Jeffrey, and I was saying that it was very strange how he was on the show and he never knew that she had three kids and the fathers were not in their lives. Now, I think he knew because based on what he said on the reunion, he didn't want to address it in front of cameras. I think that is what he was saying. And then when they did speak, he came to the conclusion that it's not the kids not wanting to see their dads, it's her keeping the fathers away from their children. She, of course, denies it. So, as for me, I have no clue what the situation is, and I have no clue what made or led to the fathers not being in their children's lives at all. But what I will say is, for her to say that she was not gonna bring any of them to meet her potential partners, it leads me to believe that maybe a tiny bit of what Andre is saying could be true. In that, the fact that the fathers probably haven't been very active in their kids' lives, maybe she feels as if they don't deserve to be a part of the children's lives whenever they please. So I think a little bit of it is true as well. But either way it goes, that was explosive. And the craziest thing was when they asked Andre if he regretted anything about the situation, and she's like, the only thing she regrets is basically choosing him over guys that would have probably been okay with her situation. He's talking about, oh, he doesn't feel grateful and that he actually kind of dissed her a bit and is like, he doesn't feel grateful for the situation that took place. But in my mind, it's like, I agree with her that he's looking for an out because these are things that you should have been spoken to her about before your final decision. But you waited after the final decision to do all of this. It comes across very suspect on my part, in my perspective of it. And as I said before, Andre is a kind of person that likes to be victimized. He likes to play the victim card. And somebody kind of summarized it perfectly when they said he was afraid of Cynthia. He was scared that he wouldn't match up to Cynthia's strength or accomplishments or whatever it was. Which to me makes me, well, I came to the conclusion that it's not that he was necessarily scared of Cynthia, but he was afraid of what that would do to his ego. Okay, so there's that. And then on the show, he's talking about, oh, he's being attacked. Nobody was attacking Andre, as far as I'm concerned. And then the other instance is when Mercedes didn't, I guess, come see about him when he had COVID. He felt away. So he's a very emotional man, and he's very easily offended. And I feel like he has a very fragile ego, and that it could be easily broken, ruptured, affected. I don't know. And the fact that he keeps putting his accomplishments in people's faces, I was on Forbes, I drive this, I was on that, it kind of further proves that Andre is a type of guy that needs some kind of therapy, because I feel like he places too much of who he is on his accomplishments. And when he sees things that threaten his accomplishments, he uses words as attacked and bruised and whatever it is, and that just speaks to that. So anyways, let's move on. By the way, did you guys hear Jeffrey's southern accent? Where did that come from? Because on the show she had this soft, oh my gosh, This is so amazing. He's such a good husband. I see it. To on the reunion, you're like, oh my goodness, this was terrible. What are they doing? Like, where you get this southern accent from? And people are saying that she's not even from a southern part of the US. So I don't know what's happening with Jeffrey. So we move on to Corvea, and they edited her to, I shouldn't say they edited her. She came across as someone that made finances and a particular lifestyle extremely important to the men that she spoke to. And for some men, like I guess the Mario, he was on for that challenge. But for other men like maybe Mark Anthony and Lyndon, it kind of rubbed them the wrong way. In terms of Mark Anthony, he thought that the way she spoke about being spoiled, he took it as just giving you things that you didn't earn. And to me, that even came across weird because as a partner, why do I have to earn things from you? Like, why don't you see it fit to just give me things just because you're grateful or happy or whatever? So I understand why she took it the way she took it about earned. Why does things have to be earned? That sounded crazy to me. And her response is that, well, she came from a family that had nothing and built up their wealth and riches. And so she feels like just because now they have the opportunity to do so, why not give their children or give their spouses things they never had? It doesn't have to be earned, it just has to be gratefulness, so to speak. So I think that was what she was like leading with it, but the other guys didn't take it this way. As far as Lyndon was concerned, he was really pissed because Jeffrey told him that Corvea told or said that he tried to kiss her, and he's like, he didn't. So why would she say something like that? And Corvea thinks Jeffrey was messy for even saying that to Lyndon. But I think it was kind of important for Lyndon to know that somebody was accusing him of doing things that he claims he did not do. Now, as far as Corvea, at first, her response is she did not remember saying that. But then later on, when they were talking about completely different things, she pipes up and she's like, well, I do remember it. And I guess there was some confusion there. I don't know, maybe she used the wrong person's name, but essentially it kind of, for you to say that in the woman's life, you have to know that it's going to affect the women's perception of the guys. So it's a big deal to say that somebody tried to kiss you, implying an unwarranted kiss. So what that would do was kind of shorten his lifespan on the show. Thank God it didn't do that, but it could have. And so I understand Lyndon's frustration, especially considering that she doesn't even know for sure what went on. So that's even crazy because she can't outright say, but you did try to kiss me, because she doesn't even remember. So I'm more likely to believe that Lyndon did not try to kiss her, and perhaps she got confused with somebody else. But it's kind of messed up. Anyway, she's not with anybody right now, so she's kind of single. So I guess she's gonna continue looking for that sugar daddy or financially stable man that she wants in her life. And everybody should want that for themselves. Then they go into Lyndon and Morgan's whole situation, and she, I think, was probably one of the only women that found Lyndon attractive. I feel like the other women were just turned off by him for whatever reason. He was always getting like blocked and kind of friend zoned. We saw that with Mercedes, we saw that with Marcia, we saw that with other women. Corvea, him and Corvea had like a bad kind of situation. I didn't really see him interact with Jeffrey, and I didn't really see him interacting with Jonique like that. But for the most part, he was kind of blocked and friend zoned, which is sad. So the thing with Morgan and Lyndon simply was that he wasn't able to give her that toxic aggressiveness, that toxic masculinity that she wanted, that alpha energy that she wanted. And simply that's why she chose Tony over Lyndon, essentially. And then in the end, she decided, okay, I'm gonna pick Tony instead because he's giving me the things I say I want. The wife, the children. He's making me these things that I want. Whereas Lyndon was like, no, I'm not ready to give you these things. So I think she knew her decision, what her decision was based on that, you know. And that's when she kissed him. And Tony didn't like that, of course, but what could he do? So essentially what Lyndon was saying or explaining is that they tried to build a friendship first. And building a friendship takes time. And by the time they got to that more romantic side, it was kind of too late. I think this process makes it so that there's no friendship. It's just a instant connection. But that's the toxic thing about this show. It's because it's so quick and there's no time to really build up something authentic. It oftentimes does not really last. Then we go into the situation with Blue. Now everybody had this perception that like Blue was this nice guy, sweet guy, amazing guy. But really and truly, we never as audiences, as the audience, saw who Blue really was. Like, he was never forward, he was never intentional, he never spoke specifically about what he wanted. And nobody saw that as a red flag until now that I'm looking at the reunion. I'm like, this man was probably one of the biggest red flags on this show. And him being so secretive was basically like a tactic to hide what his real agenda was, which was to be a playboy. So everybody's stuck on Tony, and Tony is this and Tony is that. And the whole time, Blue was literally the person that we think Tony is. It's just that with Tony, it's more out there and he's not hiding stuff, but Blue was. Because what type of mess did we see? Come to find out, he's the one that was the reason why Jonique did not get the lifeline. That kind of irritates me because it's like, why would you not give Jonique a lifeline? Like, there was only 2 instances where they were able to use that lifeline, and they literally wasted that lifeline away, all because Blue decided Jonique did not deserve a lifeline for whatever reason. It just did not make sense to me, because in my head it's like, what's the worst that could happen if you save her? Like, it literally made no sense why he didn't want to allow the men to use the lifeline, and that kind of irritated me about him. Furthermore, Jonique was like, it's probably because he felt as if Jonique was outside of the show, her options would only be limited to him. And I kind of felt like that was kind of disgusting. He trying to twist it like, well, that's not what he meant. But I truly believe that what he meant was, with Jonique out of the show, it would give him more of an opportunity to date her. He would have less competition. And I just feel like that's disgusting as well. And then come to find out that the person that he is interested in, or the girlfriend that he, I guess, got outside of the show that was also on the show, was Kayla. And that is just such a weird combination to me, because he's so quiet and like kind of boring. To get somebody like Kayla, I just think it's crazy. And I guess Blue is not the person we thought he was, because he was allegedly arrested because of doing PPP fraud. So I don't know who Blue is. He's kind of a scary person to try to dissect, because on the surface he seems sweet, but the more you dig into Blue, it's like the more you realize that he's not as sainty as we thought he was. Now, as Kayla and Blue are explaining the fact that they've been dating for 3 months, this woman pipes up. I forgot her name. She got eliminated second, I think, with the afro. She pipes up and he's like, what? Y'all have been talking for 3 months? Blue was in my messages, my DMs, saying things to me that if you found out about it, you would be upset. And she kind of like let it go because I suppose she did not want to create. So she trying to say that Blue was like sending some messages he shouldn't be sending for somebody that was in a relationship. She didn't even know him and Kayla were dating because of the messages she was receiving from Blue. Now, what I will say about that situation is dating is all about talking to multiple people and seeing who you click with. So, yeah, if nobody's serious and everyone is dating, I don't see anything wrong with me talking to you and me also talking to this other person. But I feel like what kind of turned the lady off is that it appears as if him and Kayla are kind of solid or getting to be solid. So in her mind, she's like, okay, if that's the case, why are you sending me these kinds of messages? But then again, if everyone is dating, then I guess it's fair game. But when she was talking about it to him in the back, he's barely able to give a good response or a good rebuttal to these accusations, which leads me to believe that this man is not as nice as people are saying he is. For Jeffrey, of course, everybody can be a good husband for her. And that's probably precisely why she ended up with being a baby mama to to three kids whose fathers are not in none of their lives. That she's the worst picker. Clearly she has issues picking men, and it's probably because she's not critical in her dating process. Everybody that seems good to her is good to her. And as we see, Blue's a type of person that you have to dig deeper into who he is, because if you just go based on the surface of things, you would probably assume he was great, but clearly he's not if he's doing all this sneaky, crazy stuff. Then we move on to Fabrice. Now, everybody knows Fabrice with his sexual talks and his French connections were kind of annoying. He's kind of like these typical type of sugar daddies that I don't know. He just strikes me as those typical guys that want to only spoil you if you are giving them sex. I don't know. It was a big turn off to me. It was a turn off to all the women. They sent him home. His response is they're not being real. They talk about sex too. They just don't do it in front of cameras. As much as people do talk about sex, they talk about sex with people they're comfortable with. They talk about sex with people they've probably dated for quite some time, or friends that they've had for a long period of time. They don't talk about sex with strangers. That's the difference between them and you. And that's why the women felt uncomfortable. And even after so long, he still stands by his initial closing arguments when he got sent home. And that's just is the type of person he is. He's found somebody that I guess agrees with his sex-centric view of relationships. And I'm happy for him, I guess. I just don't want to speak on Fabrice anymore. Then we go over to Miss Advocate Sue and Blake. And actually, upon further review of the entire season, Blake really didn't do anything wrong other than be blunt and straightforward with his opinion. And people didn't like that. And I guess that's why he got such a negative rap. But he wasn't that bad, I guess. He's not for everybody, but he was for Sue, to the point where they're still together now and they live 10 minutes away from each other. So they have no issues with distance. They're probably really good for each other. She's been divorced. She has kids. He's been divorced. He has kids. I think they're probably the best match for each other. So that was awesome. Good for them. They could be great together, I think. So they're like, Jeffrey gave you the name Advocate Sue. Like, how do you take it? And she was just like, well, I am a lawyer, so it's true. It's a half-truth because I am an advocate for people, I guess. So I guess Sue was really cool on the reunion. She wasn't as annoyed with Jeffrey as she was on the show. She was really calm because at the end of the day, she got the man she wanted and all is fair. All is good on her side. Jeffrey has a terrible picker, just to say or repeat that again. Last but not least, my goodness, we have Morgan and Tony. And to summarize all of what we heard there, they had a toxic connection, and that just is what it is. It was never going to last, it was never going to work, but it was gonna be exciting, it was gonna be fast paced, it was gonna be a good short ride, and that is what it was. Because what I'm hearing from Morgan's account is they tried after the show ended, and Tony had all these plans that, got her interested in him, in addition to his alpha qualities. But when it came down to real life, he didn't have time for her, is what Morgan is saying. And she felt lied to and she felt played. And I think that is what it ended up coming to. Tony felt like Lyndon broke code, and I feel like somebody is lying, because in an interview that he did talking about Tony, he says that he wasn't even talking to Lyndon about that Marcia thing. He was talking to Mark Anthony, and Lyndon happened to hear, you know. And then Lyndon on an interview said that Tony told that to him. And then on this reunion, he never contests that he spoke or told that to Lyndon. All he says was that Lyndon broke code. So I don't know who I'm supposed to believe, but it looks like it's more so on the side of Lyndon, in that it was told to him and it was told in secret and it was not supposed to be divulged, but he divulged it. And he said he did that because he just was tired of the way Lyndon was acting when it came to Morgan. Like anytime Morgan was in the picture, he was defensive, he was aggressive, he was irate, he was annoyed. And he's like, you know what? Let me just say this, because Tony's portraying this one thing to Morgan, but then he's one way behind closed doors. So he was like, let me just be honest. And he did it. No, it wasn't in his right to do so. And it was kind of wrong because it indirectly hurts Morgan, because right off the bat you see that Morgan was kind of used as if she was a spare tire, and to be told that in a public space it's embarrassing. So it's like a battle of egos right now, because it's like Morgan is like, you had this diamond and you fumbled this diamond, then you're never gonna get this again. And Tony is like, well, you're gonna miss out. And she's like, but you got the opportunity to show me in real life what your priorities were. And these priorities were not Morgan, and it is what it is. The craziest line on Ready to Love to date is, I will destroy you if you don't shut your mouth. That is crazy. That is crazy. And then she basically is saying, yes, you're done because he's a monster. Mark Anthony pipes up and his intention is to defend Tony in a sense and kind of get Morgan to just calm down. And Morgan is like, no, Mark Anthony, you shut your up. And I'm like, whoa, like, Morgan. So Morgan storms off the show. He follows. I guess he wants to talk to her behind the scenes for whatever reason. She kind of shoos him off. He's like, leave me alone. I wanted to talk to you 6 months ago and you didn't want to talk, so leave me alone. So he storms off and he's there hugging Marcia, while we hear Jeffrey telling Morgan, people just don't know how toxic Tony is. I don't know what Tony did, because nobody is really saying exactly what he did other than not prioritize Morgan after the show ended. So I don't really know the extent of that. Maybe next episode we'll see exactly what he did that was so toxic. But for now, no clue. But anyways, what do you guys think of the reunion? Do you think it was okay? Do you think it's like, do you feel satisfied with the fact that first of all, Blue is now with Kayla, but was secretly talking to this other woman, but then telling Jonique something. Like, this man is a piece of work, and people are so stuck on Tony. Nobody's gonna say anything about Blue because they didn't see that about Blue, because Blue knows how to hide his demons behind this cool, calm demeanor that he tends to have. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about Blue. Have your perception changed of Blue? Are you still stuck on Tony? The only difference between Tony and Blue is Tony is more covert with his nonsense, but Tony is more overt with his nonsense, and Blue is more covert. That's the only reason. They're like the same side of the same coin. They're the same person. But anyways, let me know what you think about Reunion Part 1 in the comment section. Like, subscribe, and see you guys next time for another review. Bye bye.